Hey, it's Lomantini lit up, and here is what I am lit up about as advertised. As promised, moving on, next chapter. Just done. Just moving on. But it brings up a great question, because there are certain things that I don't want to give up on, but at what point do you ask yourself, do you come to realize it's something that you just have to do? And the reason for that is a couple of things. There are some things in my life that I would love to restore, and I have tried to restore those things, but continue to have roadblocks and continue to have negative feedback and continue to have cantankerous comments that just aren't healthy. So my question is to you out there, when you want to move on, you want to change, you want to flip the page and go into the next chapter, the next page of the book, but there are certain things left behind in the story that you don't want to forget and you don't want to leave behind, but trying to keep them current is extremely unhealthy. At what point do you just say, fuck it? At what point do you do that? I know that the current situation in my life, that has to be exclamation point F it, because it is completely detrimental to my health and my freedom and my well-being to even try to rectify or fix it. So it is to my benefit to absolutely 100% leave it behind. But there are certain things in your life that you are extremely attached to, that are part of you, that are something that you just can't lose. It's like, all right, I'll put it out there, your children. It's an extremely long story and a lot of layers, but any of you that do know me would understand or know that I just don't have a great relationship with my children. So I would love to rectify that. One of them has kind of come back and kind of we're working on it, but the other two just not working. And it's like, okay, at what point do you just say, F it? It's a great question. But part of me is one of those types of people that will never, just doesn't give up. And I am that kind of way. Maybe it's a default that I am one of those type of people that believes that things can be figured out, things can be fixed. Nothing is impossible, right? But I live every day beautifully, excited to wake up every day in this world. And it's a gorgeous day outside today. It's going to be 80 some degrees and the sun is shining and the fresh air. I couldn't be happier. But we get through those things, but yet we have to move on. So as advertised, as I talked about, we want to go on to the next chapter. Patrick did what he did, what happened with him, punished, all this kind of stuff. Now let's move on. But how do you move on? That is the question. And I've got a great podcast next week with a good buddy of mine down in Florida, Paul. We're going to have him on the podcast, and we're going to do some great interviews, and I've got a great lineup, and I'll be publishing that here pretty soon. But the key is how do you move on from such a disastrous end to a relationship? How do you move on? And that's a great question, because since I've started all this, I've been getting a lot of messages and DMs from people asking, dude, I've been following your story. It's amazing that you're moving on. It's amazing that you're getting through what you're getting through. And that's great. I appreciate all of the compliments. I appreciate all the support. So it's my mission is to help you understand how you get through it. And it's as cliche as it may sound, it is one day, one breath at a time. But you got to spend those moments and those breaths in the right direction. I almost stumbled and I messed up the other day by going back to try and do something. I'm not going to tell you, get involved with what it is, but I had a moment of weakness because, as my therapist says, I'm a lover And I'm a person that tries to fix things and want to make sure everything is okay with everybody. But not everybody's okay with that. Not everybody is like that. And what is even more amazing is the eye-opening information that you develop from such a disastrous moment about the type of people that are in your life and how they are now. That's all in hindsight. But the question is, and the point of all of this pod today is, how do you move on? You've got to surround yourself with the good people. And a lot of people are going to say, and I've had this posed to me, what if you don't have good people? How do you develop having good people around you? It's like the whole support group thing. You know, a support group is only good if you engage with them, but how do you develop a support group? How do you even get there? One person at a time. Even if you only have one person, have that one person. But let me give you some advice about that one person. And I've said this before. We all have limits. Don't barrage the one person that is in your corner, in your circle, with this problem that you have, and do not inundate them with this information on a constant basis, because they're there to listen, but they're not there 24/7 to hear the same damn thing over and over and over again. That's one way to get through it. Don't blast your circle with the same stuff. You've got to find a way to move on. Have you ever talked to somebody and you keep telling them the same damn story over and over again and their eyes glaze over because they've disconnected? Don't get to that point. Everybody is limited. That's just who we are. We're human. One breath at a time. Be active. The devil loves blank space on your calendar. He thrives on it. He will keep you scrolling on your phone. He will keep you there thinking about the same thing over and over again. And that's what happens when you get anxious and you get depressed, is you have that same thought in your head of, oh my God, I miss her, or oh, I miss him, or whatever the problem is. And you can't fix it because it keeps circling in your head. Stay busy, get to the gym, go to the bookstore, read a book, ride a bike, walk a hike. I don't care what you do, but stay busy. You've got to stay busy. Stay so busy, and that's what I've been doing, is I've been focusing on this Tough Mudder race. I've been so busy with the exercise, by the time I get home, I just pass out. And that's how you've got to be. You've got to move on. So I'm really excited to talk to Paul next week and see how he got through his disaster. He's got a great story. My story, you guys all know my story. But the story that Paul has to share, it blew my mind. And I thought I knew the story until I actually went down a few weeks ago and spent some time with him and actually heard the story that he had to get through. And wow. So we are very resilient people. So we can get through this. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And there's a guy out there, his name's Jeremy Cowart, great artist. A lot of respect. He came out with a great book that I was introduced to, and I read it, and he's just an inspiration in a lot of ways. And then he posted something on Instagram last night. We're all going through something, man. He's going through some tough times on himself. He is doing a new art project about people that are still breathing and, have gone through some tough times of their own. And, so I reached out to him and said, hey, buddy, kind of told him, I don't necessarily want to be exhibited through Jeremy. I just wanted to let him know that, there's a lot of people out there. We're all going through something. And that's where you just don't know. You could have a guy driving a Lamborghini next to you, having a gorgeous wife with him, and he's going through the worst time of his life. So you just don't know what's happening. And then you can see a guy on the street pushing a cart, and he might be extremely happy because you know what? He's free. You don't know what's going on out there. So I wanted to commit to moving on, commit to letting you know the next step in what's happening here with these podcasts and in the evolution of Patrick as far as what's happening. I've got all the options in the world. I've got some things I still got to deal with. And hopefully by this time in the next 60 days, we have an actual definition to the status of all those things as far as the legalities and some of the stuff that's happened and what the story is with all of that. And hopefully everybody has the ability to move on. Wow. So anyway, so that's what's happening. And the thing is that what really blew my mind driving down here this morning to do this pod was I've been focusing on the whole what happened to me. You're ready to see where Patrick's going with this podcast, or what he's doing with his story, what he's doing with his life. But what's interesting and what is next is the biometrics, aggregate data, and helping people get through anxiety, depression, and avoiding suicidal ideations. And that is my focus, and that's where things will go. I'm excited about it because I kind of put it on the side burner for a little bit because I took some advice from Ray Guzman. I told you guys about him. Extremely smart, great friend of mine who set me down with a cup of coffee and said, hey, listen, man, you're coming out the gate really fast. You're sprinting since you got out here on vacation. And there has been so many things that have happened. I hit the ground running with this idea, but he goes, I highly recommend that you just get through 2023, take care of all this other issues that are kind of lingering out there. Put these people behind you, put that person behind you, and just never look back, because nobody drives a car looking in the rearview mirror. You got to look forward. So I'm suggesting that you go at more of a marathon pace, slow it down a little bit. The aggregate data, the biometrics, they're not going anywhere, because what's interesting is that there's a lot of people in that space. If you know anything, a lot of the high level companies, high performer athletes, high performing executives, a lot of people in that space, especially the coaching business, personal coaching, business coaching, they're using biometrics to keep track and see how well these people are performing and getting the proper sleep. What is their the heart rate variable, all of these various things that determine whether or not you're performing at a high level. And what's interesting is that the sleep and the HRV, the heart rate variable, are two determinations that can trigger anxiety, depression, and then lead to other problems. That's where the key is. So one of the things that I learned from all of these years in sales and all of these years in goal setting and all of these years that I've been involved with all this, and that's another thing too, is all this has been so suppressed in me because of the current lifestyle that I had for so long, that I just wasn't able to unleash it and just get out there and be hungry and do these things. And now that I have that ability, and it's all just like coming back to the surface, it's just like all this years of knowledge. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to share is that you don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to start all over, recreate the wheel. The wheel's already there. The key is to be just 10% different. Just be different than the other guys. So if all these guys are in the marketplace with these and they're focusing on performance, I'm going to be focusing on crisis prevention. Now, there is a group out there right now that I'm connecting with called INVI, making the invisible visible. And they're focusing a lot on the veteran market, which has PTSD and all these other issues. I'm going to be working in that space really for the more of a mass market. Now, the biggest key and the biggest question in that market space is, okay, here's the biggest question that I had posed to me, which is the challenge. And I'm going to challenge you. You tell me, if you're suffering from depression and anxiety, and a friend of yours, mom, dad, brother, sister, close circle, whatever, come up and said, hey, I care about you. Would you wear this ring so we can kind of keep accountability? Would you wear it? And that's the question. Would you wear the ring? Would you? Do you want people to see how you're feeling? Do you want people that may be concerned that you might take your own life? Would you wear the ring so that you could be accountable? Because if you're going to take your own life, you're going to probably take the ring off. I don't know. You tell me. Do you want to be accountable for your own safety? Do you want to be accountable for your own life? Do you want other people to see how well you're doing? How would you approach it? Should you tell me? Leave the comments below. Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe. How would you go about convincing someone to wear it? Do you go to a point of, okay, do you focus on the market of people that have tried, attempted, they're in the psych ward, you have to wear the ring, in order to be released? Do you have to wear the ring in order to, I don't know, while you're on probation? It's a very interesting question. Or am I overthinking it? Is it something that people would wear regardless? Maybe they would want to wear it. Maybe, I know at this point I would love to wear it because I want to know how well I'm doing. I want to know my sleep habits, how well I'm sleeping. I want to know my HRV, because all of that stuff is curable. I don't know if curable is the word, but I've been doing all this research, and through just basically taking care of yourself, eating well, and exercise reduces the HRV, helps you sleep, which reduces depression and anxiety. It's like this little thing that's all kind of bundled all together. But if you just do this one thing, all of it becomes better. But, I'm not saying that blanketly, meaning that, but if you take care of yourself and you work out, all of this is going to go away. Because I know a lot of people that take care of themselves and are massively depressed, massively anxious, massively insecure. So would you wear the ring? That's the question. So that's the thing that we're going to be working on. And I think it's more of a marketing situation, more of a, how celebrities get involved and how people get involved, prominent people, because, anxiety and depression is huge within, the entertainment, but it's everywhere. It's almost as if it's almost kind of glorified within the entertainment business, like I suffer and I take all these pills. And that's what we're trying to avoid. But if it was looked at as a way of life, because it is a big part of life. Like, for example, I watched this series on Showtime. I love this series called Billions. A lot of you might have seen it. But in the show, the billionaire, all of his employees wear the ring. And they don't specifically say the kind of ring, like Aura, but it's a biometric ring where they were able to keep track of all their biometrics to peak performance. And I'm like, okay, it's in the space and it's looked upon. That's what we have to do. That's part of the job. But how do we transition from that as part of life? And I want to be the best version of myself possible. I want to be accountable to others that I am doing the best I can. So that's where the marketing has to come in. That's where we're at in developing all of this and figuring it all out. And hopefully in 2024, just a few months away, we'll have some game plan for that. But that's what's happening with me on this stuff right now. And I just wanted to let you know that we are moving on. And that's the best part about all of this. Next chapter in Patrick's life. Interviews next week with Paul and many others. And I'll have all that published out there so you guys can see all of that. And, sometimes you just have to realize that some of the things that you are leaving behind just needs to be left behind. That's Lit Up.